Hello my dear friends and family, Operator Starsky here with a weekly update on Russia's ongoing war against Ukraine and what it means for the world. United States prepared to choke the Russian war machine with sanctions. Ukraine delivers its own sanctions attached to the wings of the long-range drones. Several villages cleared from the Russian occupiers, and the brave defenders of Pokrovsk keep fighting. Dear friends, this is the Frontline focus. Let's roll. The Rosneft and Lukoil oil giants in Russia have been hit with fresh sanctions by the Donald Trump administration. These sanctions cut them off from the US banking system and threaten Russia's dollar-based trade. Additionally, they sanction and threatening the companies around the world that keep trading Russian oil. As a result, we can hear different rumors coming from India and China about rerouting their businesses and seizing the trade with Russia. At the same time, the sanctions will only start working on 21st of November, and many things may change before that. How serious is the US? Judging from the statements made by Mr. Besant, who openly called Russian envoy Kirill Dmitriev a Russian propagandist, there is a tiny hope it's gonna work this time. Inside Moscow, though, the tone is expectedly defiant. The internationally wanted war criminal Putin says the sanctions are serious but will not stop the war. And knowing Russians, I can confirm the sanctions may stop many other things. They may stop Russian cars, they may stop Russian heating, overall Russian welfare, they might increase Russian inflation and maybe even hit Russian provision. But of course, Russian welfare is not as important to Putin as killing Ukrainians. And the fact is, Russian population will be obediently coping with all that, even despite the fact that the ordinary Russian citizens are already squeezed by inflation, fuel shortages, tax hikes to fund the Putin's war, and the general cost of the Russian aggression against Ukraine. And all that basically because Russia is the only case when human dignity costs much lower than obedience to the Russian Tsar. For Europe, these sanctions reaffirm that European safety is tied to the outcome of this war and to how seriously the West enforces the sanctions. Because according to the open sources, the EU still remains Russia's third largest trade partner alongside China and India. The overall Russian export to the European countries in 2024 reached almost 67.5 billion euro, allowing Russia to buy more Shadow Fleet tankers, destroy more European cable networks, and launch more drones over the European countries. My friends, that's just so people could understand that when Europeans buy Russian stuff, they voluntarily fund the Russian terrorist attacks or assassinations in Germany, in France or Poland. They also fund Green Man on the Estonian border, Russian drones over Denmark, and Russian cyber attacks in the key European airports. And maybe, just maybe, it's time to finally stop doing that. Now let's talk about Ukrainian sanctions, like those delivered by the good Ukrainian drones straight to the Russian oil refineries and Russian military factories. This week was extremely rich in such events. I don't even know where to start. Throughout this week, Ukrainian drones were spotted hitting the Russian refineries, substations, ammo storages and factories in the Russian Rostov, in Bryansk, Belgorod, Smolensk, and even in Chelyabinsk. The drones reached as far as Mordovia, hitting an explosive-producing factory, and didn't stop until they reached Dagestan, striking an oil refinery in Makhachkala, which is some of the biggest Russian oil refineries in the region. Besides that, good Ukrainian drones obliterated a bunch of the old Russian aircraft used to intercept the good Ukrainian drones. The Ukrainian Special Forces shared the footage of the aged Russian Yakovlev aircraft and other airplanes, turning them into metal scrap. And just tonight, a big wave of the good Ukrainian drones has been spotted heading towards Moscow. Different reports said that the gremlin of the Kremlin himself has been immediately evacuated to a deep bunker, and the Russian mobile groups were deployed to stop the drones. At this point, we're expecting more details on the results of the strike. And switching to the Ukrainian battleground, Ukrainian troops have liberated several villages. We're talking Kucherev Yar, Sukhetske, and also Vilna. A few Russian prisoners were taken, as it is shown on the drone footage. The happy Russian survivors will receive a 24/7 access by the International Red Cross and proper food. Unfortunately, or fortunately, we cannot say the same about Lieutenant Vasyl Marzoiev, son of the Russian Lieutenant General Arkady Marzoiev, also known as chief of the 18th Army of the Russian Toilet Snatchers. This high-ranked Russian officer has voluntarily sent his own son straight into the Ukrainian drone trap in Zaporizhia. Both Ukrainian 110th Brigade and the Russian sources confirmed that Lieutenant Marzoiev literally evolved into at least 20 square meters of perfectly fertilized Ukrainian soil. What else can I say, my friends? Ukrainian defenders are absolutely fierce warriors, but the way they care about Ukrainian nature and agriculture is truly amazing. Also, at this point, Russian propagandists are massively spreading disinformation about 5,000 Ukrainian troops encircled in Pokrovsk. However, if you remember, this year they were saying the same about another 5,000 Ukrainians encircled in Kursk Oblast. And of course, the situation is really hard there because the Russian drones in Pokrovsk are numerous, they are nasty, and basically the whole city is being constantly monitored and infiltrated by the terrorist Russian FPVs. But the encirclement of Pokrovsk at this point only exists in Putin's imagination. And finally, my dear friends and family, here's a simple reminder. This war shows that freedom, security, and democracy are not guaranteed, and of course they are not given. They are defended. Over the past week, we've heard many statements coming from Polish, German, and French authorities calling to slowly start to prepare for the upcoming Russian invasion of Europe. Therefore, my dear friends, stay informed, stay safe, stay kind, and if you have a free minute, maybe think about basic preparedness. Things like what to keep in your emergency backpack, where your nearest safe shelter is, because when you've got a neighbor like the Terrorist Federation, being ready is not panic, it's a common sense. I wish you all a beautiful day. Don't forget to subscribe to stay informed about the most important updates and share this content to help Ukraine be heard. I'm Operator Starsky. As always, be safe.
Subscribe to UATV English and stay updated on the most important events, top news from Ukraine and all over the world, in-depth analysis, exclusive reports and interviews, all on hand in our channel. Join our community of viewers and stay tuned.